the review for the books that I've read in October, although actually I kind of read them in November, and it's my book haul for November. What happened is that I called my book haul last time the October book haul, but actually it was the beginning of November already. To make up for that, I'm going to have a November haul, but first I'm going to check how I did in the books for my last haul. I read all ebooks, no paperbacks this time. I do occasionally still read paperbacks, but I really prefer ebooks at this point. I read them either on my Kindle or on my iPad or sometimes even on my phone. Just whatever I happen to have with me. I bought 10 books, and here they are: Juan Fasted, God of the Sun, The Wolf of the North, The Black Witch, The Spy in the Silver Palace, Heart of Mist, Dragon's Gift, The Flaw in All Magic, Soldier Sun, and The Witching Elm. 2 of these I didn't start. So I actually only got a sample of Heart of Mist, and I haven't bought it yet, and I haven't started it yet. I also didn't start Soldier Sun yet, and I'm still reading The Witching Elm. All the rest I have finished. As you can see, they're all fantasy this month. I was kind of on a fantasy kick. I also love science fiction, but when I'm writing fantasy, I tend to read fantasy. So we'll see if I did read 1 or 2 science fiction books. So here's the next haul of books. The one that I've read already that's science fiction is Ocean of Storms. It's a near future thriller type science fiction. I also have a young adult dystopia in this haul, Configured. I'm pretty sure all the rest are fantasy or fantasy romance. Okay, so for this haul of books, I have 2 second books in a series, and I mentioned in the reviews of the first books of those why I had decided to buy the second books. Jorundar's Path is the sequel to Wolf of the North. Prince of the Moon is the second book in the Stella and Soul series. Ocean of Storms was standalone, and I think the rest of these are series, the beginning of series. Oh, Snowspelled, that's a fantasy Regency. I like Regency and I like fantasy and I like the combination. So I've never read this author before, but I'm going to be interested to see how that goes. It sounded good in the sample. Heart of Flame and Academy of Assassins appear to be urban fantasy. The Gender Game, that title just cracks me up every time I see it. And the premise is so funny and apropos for our current year. I'm looking forward to reading that one too. I think that's also a young adult dystopia. And then finally I have The Path of Flames, which looks like another high fantasy series. Honestly, epic fantasy is one of my favorite genres, so I always try to have at least one series where I'm reading high fantasy. But I'm also more picky about it because it is my favorite, so I'm kind of have higher standards for epic fantasy than for other genres. Probably because I've read more books in that genre, so I'm more sensitive to cliches and things like that. It just happens that the more books you read in a kind of genre or a subgenre, the more sensitive you become to the usual cliches and tropes of that genre, and then that's why sometimes you find yourself getting tired of your favorite genre. So that's another reason that I like to mix it up. I read a lot and I read very fast, so I try to read over a wider variety of genres and subgenres. They're all kind of fantasy or science fiction. Sometimes I read nonfiction. Well, actually, I read a lot of nonfiction, but sometimes I read nonfiction type stories like historical. So fiction, but like historical fiction, or autobiography or biography, especially of people from historical times. That just makes it so much more fun when then I come back into a book in my favorite genre, even though I still recognize the tropes and the cliches. I feel this excitement over them again because I haven't read that kind of book for a long time. I've read other books in between. So if you do find yourself feeling like, oh my gosh, my reading is stale, everything seems like it's the same story told over and over again, expand the kinds of books that you're reading. Try different genres, try different subgenres. And then after a while, after you've had a little breather with different kinds of books, then come back to it. And I think that you'll probably find the same thing, that you're kind of excited about it again, or you haven't read it in a while, now you're in the mood for it again. Just, let yourself have a break and try other things. If you're a writer, it's definitely important to read outside of the genre that you're writing in. Don't just get stuck in that one groove, because you will not only absorb all these cliches and tropes, but then that's all that you'll have to replicate. Whereas if you read widely and you have really wide tastes in your reading, beyond even your major genre, like most of what I'm reading here for review is is science fiction and fantasy, but I read even more widely than that. I just figure, well, I'm going to target a certain audience for the videos. But if you're writing, you should definitely read even more widely than that. Read every genre you can, at least 1 or 2 books in it. You don't have to read every book in another genre that you don't like. but at least try a few and just, read everything you can. And then that'll bring a definite richness, because every genre and every subgenre even has its own little cliches, its own little tropes, its own little conversation that's going on between the writers and the readers that people are familiar with, that are different when you go into a different little group. It's like going from one clique at school into another clique. You learn different kinds of people, different sides of people, and then it makes you as a human being a more well-rounded person, and you as a writer a more well-rounded writer. I can't believe I tried to give my book haul a moral. That's kind of sad. Tara out.